Picture this for a second. Your life already looks exactly the way you've always wanted it to. Doors open before you even push on them. Opportunities seem to lean in your direction on their own. Circumstances quietly rearrange themselves to match what you've been hoping for. This isn't wishful thinking. It's a principle, and it runs on consciousness. Here's the thing. The world doesn't respond to your wanting. It responds to what you're aware of yourself as being. When you carry yourself as the luckiest person alive, you're really assuming that existence itself is working in your favor. Not because of some fluke, not because someone gave you permission, but because you've made the decision to live inside the feeling of being favored. Walk into any room holding the quiet certainty that something good is waiting for you there. And it will be. Everything starts with a state. That state isn't something happening to you from the outside. It's internal. A vibration. A sense of self. The instant you shift that inner condition, the outside world starts rearranging itself to match. So what does acting as if actually mean? It means accepting a reality on the inside before there's a shred of proof of it on the outside. You speak from that place. You think from that place. You live from it. You're not begging the universe for a lucky break. You're embodying luck itself. Maybe you're thinking, but nothing's changed yet. How am I supposed to believe this when everything still looks the same? And that's exactly the moment you need to hold on tighter. A seed has to be buried in the dark soil of imagination long before it ever breaks through the cairns. Choosing to act as the luckiest person alive means trusting what's unseen more than what's light, currently visible. You stop being swayed by appearances and start anchoring yourself in the truth that whatever you feel as real eventually becomes real. Once you assume life is working out for you, uncertainty stops rattling you. People start treating you differently, not because they've changed, but because something in you has shifted. The world works like a mirror. Believe you're fortunate, blessed, chosen, and that's what you become. Choose the feeling over the current facts. Choose the vision over what's visible right now. Feel lucky today, not eventually. Speak good things over your own life. Open your eyes in the morning and say, everything is going to flow in my favor today. Say it like someone who already knows it's true, and life will start echoing it back. Don't wait around for proof before you allow yourself to feel it. Feel it first, and the proof will catch up. Decide you're the luckiest person in the world, because the moment you decide it, you are it. To be lucky, you first have to feel lucky. Before anything on the outside confirms it, before a single sign shows up, before the world gives you any reason at all. That's the whole secret, tucked right into how consciousness actually works. You assume the feeling of luck not because something already happened, but so that something will. Feeling comes first. Evidence trails behind it. Most people sit around waiting for their circumstances to shift before they allow themselves to feel fortunate. But anyone who understands how imagination actually creates knows it works backwards from that. Imagination has to come first, because it's the womb everything else is born from. Every fortunate turn, every strange coincidence, every so-called miracle started out as nothing more than an invisible idea wrapped in feeling. When you imagine something vividly, with real faith and emotional conviction, you're planting a seed in the fertile ground of your own subconscious. And like every seed, it grows according to what it is. Plant a feeling of luck, ease, favor, and eventually, the outer world has no choice but to express that same nature. But the feeling has to be accepted as real first, before it can take shape out there. So the real challenge isn't bending the world to cooperate. It's convincing your own inner self to accept this new identity. To take on the feeling of luck is to walk around as if you'd carrying a hidden light inside you. One that pulls the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing toward you. That's not arrogance, and it's not delusion either. It's quiet, unshakable inner certainty that things are always tilting in your favor. It means living with the awareness that every step you take is being held up by something you can't see. Even when things seem to go sideways, you hold on to the knowing that it's just a blessing wearing a disguise. The world isn't reacting this way to reward you. It's simply reflecting the belief you're flow in it. Feeling lucky means you stop marinating in doubt. You stop rehearsing the worst-case scenario in your head. You stop wondering whether you deserve good things. You just know, on some deep gut level, that life bends toward your belief, and you carry yourself accordingly. You speak gratitude for things you haven't even seen yet. You move through the world with the ease of someone who knows they're looked after. You wake up each morning expecting good surprises instead of bracing for bad ones. And the world starts to mirror your tone right back at you. It matches your mood. It imitates whatever atmosphere you're carrying inside. The real work happens internally. It means feeling lucky even when nothing appears to be working. It means sitting quietly and generating the sensation of things going your way, even while the evidence in front of you says otherwise. That's not denial, that's creation. It's understanding that feeling is the raw material your future gets molded from. When you can close your eyes and step into the emotional reality of already having the right breaks, the right timing, the right answers, you're setting the stage for it to show up on the outside. Don't wait for life to hand you a reason to feel fortunate. Become the source of that feeling, yourself, and life will echo it back. Let your imagination lead. Let it soak your mind in a mood of certainty. Walk around as though you're guided, chosen, blessed. Hold that feeling long enough, and it crystallizes into experience. The world isn't random, it's a mirror. And when you assume the feeling of luck, you're not faking anything. You're practicing faith. And faith, sustained long enough, becomes fact. Luck was never some mysterious force that only visits a chosen few while skipping over everyone else. It's not a roll of the dice or some accident of fate. It's a state of consciousness, a psychological atmosphere, a point of view you can deliberately step into and settle down in. That's the deeper truth most people miss entirely. You're not at luck's mercy. You're the one generating it, setting it into motion in your own life. Your state isn't fixed. It's fluid, changeable, entirely within your control. You get to choose whether you're living in lack or abundance, in struggle or in grace. That choice is always yours, and luck responds to it just like everything else does. A state isn't just a passing mood. It's a whole mental position, a blend of beliefs, assumptions, and feelings that everything you think, do, and react to flows through. When you're living in a state of luck, you expect things to go your way. You carry the inner knowing that things are lining up for you, even before the outside world has caught up to it. You don't sit around waiting to be proven right. You just live as if you already have been. That's how you train your subconscious to accept luck as your default setting. Most people let their state get chosen for them by whatever's happening around them. One missed opportunity, one setback, one discouraging comment, and suddenly they're plunged into defeat or scarcity or self-doubt. But you weren't built to just react. You were built to create. You're meant to pick your state on purpose and stay in it no matter what the outside world happens. To be reflecting back at you in that moment. Here's the paradox. The outer world reflects your inner state, never the other way around. If you want to change what you experience, you have to change what you're being first. This isn't about faking optimism or forcing anything. It's about tuning your inner awareness to match the frequency of the life you actually want. Choosing a state doesn't take effort. It takes intention. It's a quiet decision made inside your own imagination. When you say to yourself, I'm someone good things naturally flow toward, you've not just wishing. You're selecting a state. And once that declaration is backed by real feeling, once it moves from a passing thought into deep conviction, it starts shaping your actual reality. You don't need anyone's permission to feel lucky. You don't need a sign or a coincidence or a special date on the calendar. All you need is the willingness to step into that feeling and claim it as who you naturally are. What comes next isn't magic. It's just how things work. You'll start noticing synchronicities, easy connections, opportunities showing up out of nowhere. None of it is random. It's all being drawn toward the frequency you're now living in. Every single day gives you countless chances to shift your state. A new thought, a fresh assumption, a different reaction to an old problem. Each one is a door you can walk through into a better experience. And once you settle into a state that feels aligned, life starts to feel effortless, even lucky. You're not stuck. You're not some victim of chance. The power to live as a fortunate person has been sitting inside you the whole time. Choose the state. Stay in it. Come back to it whenever you drift. And eventually, the world will rise up to meet the reality you've already decided to be. There's real power in how you talk. Not just to other people, but to yourself. Your words aren't just noise. They're creative forces shaping your inner world, and by extension, your outer one. When you speak like someone who already knows, you line your consciousness up with certainty, with completion, with the reality of what you want as if it's already done. This isn't just positive thinking on the surface. It's the deliberate use of language to lock in your inner state and take ownership of your world. Someone who speaks like they already know doesn't beg or wish or plead. They don't say, "I hope this works out," or "maybe I'll get lucky today." They say, "Things are always working out for me," or "I'm always exactly where I need to be." They speak from the end result, not toward it. Their words match the feeling of the wish already being fulfilled, and because of that, those words start taking on the texture of reality itself. The conversation running quietly in your own head, what you whisper to yourself in private moments, sets the tone for your entire life. Walk around all day silently telling yourself, "I'm not good enough. This probably won't work. Nothing ever goes my way." And you pray, just reinforcing a state of limitation and bad luck over and over. The universe, being a mirror, simply hands that tone right back to you. But shift that inner conversation. Start affirming that you're guided, blessed, chosen, lucky, and you'll start seeing a change not just in your mood, but in your actual results. Speaking like someone who already knows means claiming your identity ahead of time. You don't wait for proof before you say it, and the proof shows up afterward. You don't say, "I hope I'll be successful someday." You say, "Success is who I am." You don't say, "Maybe things will turn around." You say, "Things are turning in my favor." These aren't lies you're telling yourself, they're seeds. Spoken with real conviction, they take root in your subconscious and grow into actual lived experience. It's easy to speak from doubt. Everyone knows how to echo fear and worry. But real transformation happens the moment you choose a higher tone. Words carrying the vibration of certainty activate something different in you. It shows up in your posture, your decisions, your expectations, and eventually your reality. People respond to that shift, not because the world itself changed, but because you changed the way you speak and the place you're speaking from. Every time you affirm that you're exactly where you need to be, you fall into step with divine timing. You become sensitive to signs, open to guidance, resilient through delays. You stop seeing missed chances and start seeing redirection. You stop feeling like life is against you and start recognizing that something better is being arranged than what you originally pictured. The more you affirm it, the more you feel it, and the more you feel it, the more you actually start living it. Let your words reflect who you've chosen to become, not the fears you're carrying. Fill your inner dialogue with purpose, power, and peace. You don't have to shout it from the rooftops or convince a single other person, but you do have to convince yourself. Speak from the ending. Speak as though the answer already arrived. Speak with the tone of someone who knows, deep down, that they're supported, guided, and favored. Your world won't be able to help but respond in kind. There's a moment in every life where a single decision reveals itself as the real turning point. A quiet, internal choice that changes everything. Not because the world instantly shifts, but because you do. Decision isn't a reaction to what's happening around you. It's a command that comes from the very center of who you are. And when it comes to becoming the luckiest person alive, it starts with one unshakable decision. I am lucky. Life is on my side. Everything is working out for my good. This decision has nothing to do with what's already happened, or what things currently look like. You don't earn it. It's not handed down by fortune or karma or chance. You simply choose it. And in that act of choosing, you step into a whole new state of consciousness, a new identity. That's where all real change actually begins. Nothing shifts until you decide. But the second you do, the second you commit to feeling blessed, guided, favored, life starts rearranging itself around this new version of you. So many people wait for change to show up before they'll let themselves feel differently. They say, "I'll feel lucky once something lucky actually happens." But that's a fundamental misunderstanding of how reality gets built. Waiting is passive. Deciding is creative. When you wait, you're basically announcing that you're not in control. When you decide, you take ownership of your own experience. That choice, made consciously and backed by feeling, carries real weight. It sends a clear message to your subconscious and to reality itself. This is who I am now. This decision isn't about forcing the world to bend to you. It's about entering the world from a completely different frequency. You start seeing yourself differently. You talk differently. You move through your days expecting good things, anticipating beauty, ready to receive. That inner shift naturally changes how you perceive everything. You start noticing opportunities you'd have missed before. You draw in people and events that reflect your inner tone. You meet difficulty with resilience instead of collapse. Why? Because you've already decided you're lucky, so even your setbacks are forced to serve you. That's the real secret here. Decision changes perception, and perception changes reality. Once you identify as someone good things happen to, you start interpreting everything through that lens. An unexpected detour becomes divine timing. A delay becomes protection. A closed door becomes redirection. You stop being a victim of randomness and become a participant in something deeper, something that bends to whatever you've assumed about yourself. That decision doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need applause or anyone's recognition. It's a quiet, powerful shift that happens in your heart. A private moment of agreement that says, "I no longer align with struggle. I no longer identify with misfortune. I'm choosing to live as someone favored by life." Return to that decision daily, and it starts hardening into fact. Maybe you've been told your whole life that things simply happen to you. But the moment you realize that life happens through you, everything changes. Decision is the doorway. It's the ignition key. It turns potential into motion. Until you decide, your desire is just an idea sitting there. But the second you choose, the second you become it, reality starts to move. New people show up. Unexpected good things arrive. Synchronicities pile up. Why? Because you've finally said yes to a higher version of yourself. You don't become lucky because of one dramatic event. You become lucky by repeatedly choosing to identify as lucky in small, quiet moments, over and over. When you wake up, you decide again. When a challenge shows up, you decide again. When doubt starts creeping back in, you decide again. That consistent choice builds a new identity, and that new identity shapes an entirely new world. Most people never actually make the decision. They wait. They hope. They dabble at change without ever fully claiming it. But the ones who dare to choose, even with zero evidence in front of them, are the ones whose lives actually shift course. Deciding doesn't mean having all the answers. It just means you've picked your direction. And once you've picked it, everything you need starts aligning around that choice. There's no power hiding in indecision. There's no momentum in maybe. But the moment you say, "I am lucky, I am chosen, I am guided," and mean it with everything in you, something shifts. Something deep inside starts organizing itself around that belief. And your world, being nothing more than a reflection of your own self-concept, has no choice but to follow. You don't sit around waiting to become the luckiest person alive. You simply decide that you already are. And that decision, that simple but profound act of inner certainty, is exactly what calls the evidence into being. Reality responds to clarity. It follows intention, and decision is the purest form of intention there is. So make the choice now, not out of desperation, but out of conviction, and the life that once felt so far away will start unfolding right in front of you. Think about the people you'd call lucky. Look closely, and you'll notice something interesting. They rarely talk about luck as something that happens to them. They talk about it like it's just their baseline. Ask them how they always land on their feet, and they'll shrug and say something like, "Things just tend to work out for me." That sentence isn't modesty. It's not an accident of phrasing. It's the actual mechanism at work, spoken out loud without them even realizing they're revealing the secret. They've stopped treating good fortune as an exception and started treating it as their normal condition. And once something becomes your normal condition, you stop being surprised by it. You start expecting it. That expectation is quiet, almost boring in how ordinary it feels to the person living it. But it's the whole engine underneath everything we've been talking about. Here's something worth sitting with. Most people treat their current circumstances as the truth, and their desired state as the fantasy. They've got it backwards. Your current circumstances are just the old harvest, the result of a state you occupied a while ago, maybe months or years back. They are not the truth about who you are right now, or what's available to you going forward. The feeling you choose to hold today is actually the more accurate signal of what's coming, because it's the seed for the next harvest. So when someone says, "I can't feel lucky, because look at my life right now," they're mistaking the crop for the soil. The crop already happened. What you plant today is a completely separate matter, and it doesn't have to match what grew last season. This is why patience matters so much in this whole process. And it's the part people struggle with the most. There's almost always a gap, sometimes short, sometimes uncomfortably long, between the moment you shift your inner state and the moment the outside world visibly catches up. During that gap, nothing looks different. You've made the decision. You've claimed the feeling. You're speaking as though it's already true. And yet the mail arrives the same as always. The same conversations happen. The same routines carry on. This is the exact point where most people quit. They mistake the lag for proof that nothing is working, when really it's just proof that the seed hasn't broken the surface yet. Underground, in the dark, invisible to you, something is absolutely happening. Roots are forming, the old structure is being replaced by a new one, cell by cell, thought by thought. You don't dig up a seed every few days to check if it's growing. That kills it. You leave it buried, you keep watering it with the same feeling, and you trust the process working in a place you can't see. One thing that trips people up is confusing acting as if with pretending. Pretending is hollow. It's performance for an audience. Words with no real feeling behind them, said through gritted teeth while some part of you is quietly screaming that it isn't true. That version doesn't work, and it never has, because the subconscious mind isn't fooled by lip service. It responds to felt reality, not spoken reality. So the actual skill here isn't repeating a phrase until you believe it through sheer repetition. It's finding your way, even briefly, into the genuine emotion of already being favored, the calm, the relief, the quiet excitement, and letting the words rise naturally out of that feeling, rather than trying to manufacture the dress feeling out of the words. Feeling first, words second. Reverse that order, and the whole thing turns into an empty ritual. It also helps to understand why setbacks don't actually disprove any of this, even though they seem like they should. When something goes wrong right after you made this decision to live as the luckiest person alive, the temptation is to think, "See? It's not working. I decided I was lucky, and then this happened." But look closer at what's really going on in that moment. A setback only threatens your new state if you let it redefine you. If a delay shows up, and you interpret it as, "I'm unlucky again," you handed your state right back to the outside world, the very thing you were trying to stop doing. But if that same delay shows up, and you interpret it as, "This is clearing space for something better," or "This isn't 10% for me, because something better is coming," the event stays exactly the same, but you remain intact. The facts haven't changed. Your relationship to the facts has. And it's that relationship, not the raw facts themselves, that shapes what comes next. There's also something worth saying about the people around you during this whole process. Because your environment tends to react to shifts in you long before it seems to make sense that it would. When you carry the settled certainty of someone who expects good things, people around you start behaving differently, without any clear reason why. They offer things they wouldn't have thought to offer before. They mention an opportunity almost as an afterthought that turns out to matter enormously. This isn't because they've suddenly become generous or observant. It's because people are constantly, unconsciously reading the atmosphere of everyone they interact with, and they respond accordingly, usually without even noticing they're doing it. Desperation repels. Neediness repels. But quiet, grounded expectation draws people in, because it feels safe, and magnetic at the same time. Nobody can quite explain why they wanted to help you or include you. They just did. That's the mirror working exactly as it should. Gratitude deserves a mention here too, because it's often misunderstood as something you feel only after good things arrive. But gratitude used correctly works the other way around. It's a tool you use before the evidence shows up, specifically because it trains your attention to notice what's used and what's already going right instead of what's still missing. When you thank yourself, or life, or whatever you want to call it, for something not yet visibly here, you're rehearsing the emotional posture of someone who already has it. That rehearsal matters more than people give it credit for. Emotion is what gives a thought its traction. A thought without feeling behind it barely leaves an impression. A thought soaked in genuine gratitude sinks in and takes hold. It's worth being honest, too, about what this isn't. This isn't a suggestion to ignore real problems, or float through life refusing to plan or take practical steps. Acting as if you're the luckiest person alive doesn't mean acting careless or checked out. It means you take the practical steps you'd take anyway, but you take them from a place of calm expectation instead of anxious grasping. The actions look similar on the surface. The energy underneath them is completely different, and that difference is exactly what determines whether those actions land well or fall flat. Someone applying for a job from fear sends out a different signal than someone applying for the same job from quiet confidence, even if the resume is identical. People pick up on that signal whether they can name it or not. And maybe the most important thing to understand, if you take nothing else from any of this, is that none of this requires a single external event to get started. You don't need permission. You don't need a sign in the sky. You don't need someone else to validate that you're allowed to feel lucky today. The starting point is available to you the instant you decide it's available. This second. Right now. Wherever you happen to be sitting as you take this in. Nothing outside you has to shift first. The decision comes first, and everything else follows behind it. Sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once, but always in that order. You are not waiting on luck. Luck is waiting on you to decide, and to keep deciding, until the deciding becomes so natural it stops feeling like a decision at all, and simply becomes who you are.